What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Diamond Talk. And today we have a stacked show. As always, Andrew Mascis, General Manager of In the Zone Baseball and Softball Academy, is with us. Andrew, how are you?
Doing great, Jeremy. How you doing?
Can't complain. It's been one heck of a week here at In the Zone. We've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yes, sir.
But as promised, we have our very first guest of Season 3. She is a pitching coach at St. Peter's University in New Jersey. She is Sue Ruffo. Sue, how are you? Happy to have you on.
I'm good, thanks a lot.
Happy
Happy to be here.
We've been talking about this for quite some time now. I know it's something that we wanted to get done, so we're happy to have you. Thanks for joining on.
Do my best.
Okay. We had a lot of pre-show discussion, but we got the ball rolling, and we're
ready to go.
All right.
Firing this thing off.
We're just going to do it, and we're going to be putting out information for coaches, players, parents, whatever your category is. This is the show for you. Today we're going to be covering the recruiting process, both on the baseball side and, of course, the softball side. We're going to be talking about what to look for as a player, or what to do as a player if you're at a showcase, event, camp, whatever the case is. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about a very good off-season program to do, especially in the winter, in those cold weather states. So let's just do it. Before we do that, Sue, I kind of want to dive in, and I want to know more about you. Tell us about your background. Tell us how you got to where you are now as the softball pitching coach at St. Peter's University.
I played softball here in Morris County in high school. Then I went to University of Rhode Island, played a year there, came back and did County College of Morris for a year.
Oh.
And then I actually went to NJIT and got a degree there and played softball there for 2 years. They went D2 that year, and I was very excited because we were sponsored by Nike.
Nice.
Welcome to a 20-year-old psyche.
Yeah.
So one of the things about that background that does lend itself to especially the topic today is that I played at 3 different schools, 3 different divisions, and had a different experience than being one place, one experience. So when we talk to a lot of recruits, I have pretty much have seen it all. Yeah. Then I ended up doing I did club coaching, town coaching, and then I met the head coach at St. Peter's, Chris Stelma, and we did club together. He took the job at St. Peter's and asked me to come on as the pitching coach and assistant coach, and that's how we got where we got.
So it's been a ride.
It's been super fun.
Very, very well rounded.
Like everyone else, it's softball and many other sports have been a part of my life forever. I played 3 sports in high school. I actually played 2 sports in college.
Oh yeah, what's the second one?
Soccer.
Nice.
Oh.
So I was a goalie at 5'5".
Doesn't sound
you
pretty
can see
typical.
that I like a challenge. I'm also a pitcher at 5'5".
There you go.
So that's how we got here.
And I love that because you've been around every type of softball, just like I have, just like Andrew has. You've seen the grit and the grind of New Jersey softball in the winter and the cold weather and having to really grind it out in a season. And then you've been at Rhode Island, where it's, I don't want to say given to you, but it's almost like being any D1 player. There's a lot of perks that come with it. And then playing at NJIT, but coming back home and to be where you're at now, you really seen it all, for lack of a better term. I mean, chime in for what you think, but coming from someone who started at like a JUCO level and seeing the grind it takes and having to get my guys recruited to go to different places and coaches telling me all the time why I love recruiting JUCO players from New Jersey because they're grinders and they have a different mentality than everyone else, and it's true, it really is. The grind that New Jersey players put in on a regular basis is totally different from someone from Florida where it's warm all the time and they get to play baseball and softball all the time. It's just different.
We might be a little biased, but that's all right.
But it's something that's been told, and I hear it all the time.
Right.
And of course we're biased. We're from New Jersey. We feel it. We hear it, But, it is something that's been told to me. I'm sure it's been told to you.
I've heard it once or twice.
It's just a different mindset that,
It lends itself to something we call, like when we're recruiting, especially talking today, is that we look for kids that have grit.
Right.
You have to want it when you play a sport, a summer sport in a winter climate. You have to find a way to do it. When I was coming up, we did not play the same sport year round. I actually competitively skied in the winter months and played basketball and anything else. But we didn't do this one sport all year and gave up everything else.
Right.
I'm a big fan of multi-sport athletes. I think it
is a
really
big
lends
conversation.
itself to being just a better competitor.
Yeah.
You have to use different skill sets. You have a different mindset and approach to each sport. And I think that's something, and when you're in New Jersey, because you can't go to a ball field
Right.
between November and February, you have to find something else that can lend itself to the sport you're trying to develop.
Like it in the zone.
Absolutely.
Like
Yes.
the place they're in right
Yes.
now. So obviously we've seen facilities pop up left and right. And it's funny because you go down to a place like Florida. I was talking to my friend last night who is a coach at Atlantis University in Miami. And by the way, they're playing their first game today.
That's insane.
And
Good for them.
But he's telling me, he's like, there's maybe 2 facilities in the Miami area. Why? Because they get to play all year round. They don't need an indoor facility to train in
Right.
when it's 60 degrees, which is their winter, the week of winter. So it really is crazy how the different mentalities and different mindsets from state to state, even from region to region, it changes really with the weather.
Right.
With that said, I know we touched on some recruiting points. So I want you to take us through, and obviously, with baseball and softball, there's some similarities there, but I want you to take us through the recruiting process, right? Let's put myself in the shoes as a softball player, high school softball player coming up, wanting to play college at the next level, or wanting to play softball at the next level, excuse me. What's the process for a typical softball high school player?
So very typically, the showcase system is alive and well in New Jersey. For better or for worse, the structure of it is you have to be on a team that gets into tournaments that the type of coaches you're trying to attract go to. So when we go to the showcases, we are usually there to see someone that's already expressed an interest in our school. So where that lends itself immediately to is if you are playing club and you are on a team, coaches don't just stumble on you. We are watching games because there's someone probably on that team that we already have an interest in, and then if there's another person on that team, we're absolutely a fan, and we'll say, oh, we went to see Jeremy, but I saw this guy Andrew, and wow, let's take a look at him. With that being said, it's on the athletes. It's up to them to reach out to the coaches that they want to get in front of. So there are recruiting services, there are all these things. We don't really, in the softball world, at least in my experience, we don't look for someone to come tell us about someone.
Right.
The player emails us repetitively. The best way we tell people to get in front of a coach is to go to the camp that's at their school or their facility. And then you can really find out if you like the school, if you like the coaches, if you like the kids. The showcases is a great place to get a school to look at you. So if you've expressed an interest, a lot of times, as you may know, with D1, we can't respond to players until a very specific date. So they have to email us for 2 years and then eventually,
hope for the best.
But I think the biggest thing we tell the showcase athletes is, one is to really find the school that you like, in the geography that you like, with the size, your major, you have to, though you cast a wide net, it has to be realistic.
Sue, I don't mean to interrupt you here, but Jeremy, I believe this sounds pretty similar to what we've been talking about with our guys.
And I like what you touched on the camps there, because it's not like this now, but we still see camps at D1 level and for baseball. You still see a whole bunch of camps, and it's still a primetime way for a coaching staff to see somebody. But it really is, for what you said, those dates. D1 is very specific when it comes to recruiting, right? There's certain time where you can actually leave campus to go recruit, and then there's certain times that you can have players come onto your campus where you can't leave, and there's a certain time period where you can't touch a player at all. You can't call them, you can't communicate with them, you can't talk to them. So it's very specific, and it really takes a really knowledgeable player to do their background homework, to know, hey, I know Coach Ruffo is available from this state to this state. I need to make sure that I'm getting as much contact that I can with her.
Yep.
So that's I'm pretty sure the dates are similar, right, with softball and baseball as far as recruiting goes. Or
I'd say close enough.
Yeah.
It's I will say as restrictive. It may not be with the same dates. Right. But there are definitely, and that is one of the frustrations, and we feel for the kids when we go to the showcases and they have access to us. We actually find ourselves saying a lot of times, at least when we're with other D1 coaches, if you have a question, this is a great time to ask, because this
Right.
does not come up that often. We see kids at multiple camps, and those are the showcase camps also,
Right.
which is not just, usually it's like the first day of a camp will be a showcase, or it's purely just a showcase day. And I think that's part of that recruiting. And they always ask, what should we ask? One of the things my peers and I a lot of times say, we get all the kids together, I don't know if you do, if they do it in the beginning,
Yep.
and they'll say, do you have any questions? They don't have questions, and I have them raise their hand. I said, how many of you have no idea what to ask?
Right.
Because they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Right.
So we have to then take it upon ourselves to offer, would you like to know what the schedule is like?
Right.
How does strength training work in? What are the hours? What are your expectations? And then you see sort of the deer in the headlight,
Right.
because I think when they go to a camp, they want me to say, I need someone that's coachable, that competes, that's skill-based.
Right.
And in fact, when they go to the camps, if they're there, the majority of the players have similar skill sets. So it's not necessarily the skills that you're really getting
Right.
information at showcases about. It's more about this process.
Right.
And I have to tell you, most of the feedback we get at the end is, thank you for reminding me
Right.
that it doesn't matter D1, D2, D3, JUCO. Find something that fits you.
Right.
Right.
You only have a certain percentage of athletes that play at the college level, period. So if you can get there, you've already beaten 94% of the rest of the kids.
Right, I was going to say, what is it, 7%?
It's
something
like
that?
7% that
Yeah.
play at any level. So you really have to sort of remind them to feel good about what they're doing, because there's a lot of no's
Yeah.
before you find the yes that fits.
Yeah, and that's and nowadays with the transfer portal, we see people jumping in and out of that portal like there's
That was
no
a great
tomorrow.
reaction, Sue.
Because that's actually the appropriate reaction for what's going on now. And again, we're in unprecedented times, and COVID has kind of tailed back everything. And now we have kids in school for 6 years, but playing baseball and softball for 6 years. It's ridiculous right now. But with that said, I do think that it's going to be tailing back a little bit, either this year or the next. With the transfer portal, I think it's not going to be as easy as it is now. Like back, I know 3 years ago, if you wanted to transfer, you had to sit out for a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah, they've definitely made some adjustments. COVID accelerated it.
Right.
They were on their way to sort of helping that cause. But I think with the fifth year and the players that want to play, and then the players that want to play, but then there's no funding.
Right.
So you have players that are coming back for a graduate year. They'd like to do a graduate year, but they can't get financial assistance, and then that they cannot find a school that will do both. If you
Right.
can be a GA, that's great. But I think it's a challenge, and I think it's great that they gave the opportunity to give back the year, because that was heartbreaking.
100%.
Being pulled off the field on our COVID year,
That's
the
really
seniors
tough.
didn't know it was their last ball they'd ever hit. I mean, it was heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being a college athlete at that time.
No, it was a mess.
We were on the field. It was very frustrating for us, and mostly our seniors. So the fact that they could have had the opportunity to come back, some did, some didn't. And that's, I think, school-wide. But the transfer opportunities now it may be going full swing, because now you're getting a lot of pushback on the softball world, where there are players that are just bouncing now.
Yeah.
They are
Right.
just pitchers, of course, especially.
It makes the recruiting process a mess, because now, as a typically as a coach, sometimes this is the case and sometimes it's not, but it really screws the 21 and 22 high school class, because if you look at it in the standpoint of, you have a fifth-year senior, quote-unquote, veteran who knows what they're doing, knows the program, you kind of molded them to be what you wanted them to be, you're going to take that 10 out of 10 times, rather than having to mold another freshman to come in. Sometimes, not always. We've seen some cases where a school, for example, I know for a fact, like Steve Owens is at Rutgers, he cut some scholarships for those fifth-year seniors because they were just getting too old. He couldn't help them anymore. He rather mold a freshman to come in and do what he wanted. Granted, again, he's a new coach, so he's still trying to get that regime up to what he wanted. But there's just many different cases, and I think in this point, especially with COVID and the recruiting process, we kind of did see a little bit of hurt with the seniors coming out of high school.
Yeah, I think it was a challenge. The 20s were rough. I think the 21s had it a little better because they hadn't really come out with the ruling on the 5th year at that window. Mm-hmm. And now it's going to settle down. I think it will settle down more, but we are still feeling it right now. We're into 23s and 24s now, and we can now project what our budget is, and we can project where we have room for players. But we also did have players that transferred out. They decided they didn't come back from the COVID year even. They just decided to stop playing. And that's, all over. Players just moved around. But I think that going back to the mess, the process isn't going to change as far as a player trying to get, we get the number one question at our showcases, how do I get seen by a coach? Mm-hmm. And I just have to keep going back when we talk to our players, is that you have to try to find that consistency with schools that you've targeted. And then we have the other question I'm sure you guys get, well, how long do you wait to hear from those schools that you really want to go to? Right. And that's one of the most challenging things to answer to a player, because it's a timing. It's your position, it's your year, it's your academics, it's out. Softball's a pool sport. Funding is not, the misnomer of a full ride, has become this big conversation. So I think that with the way the process goes, the player, and it's no fun for the coaches. I think you guys would agree. It's no fun how we have to negotiate either saying yes to a player, no to a player, when to do it. Mm-hmm. We have to wait until they come back. It's really it's a challenge.
And don't get me started on these NLIs. That's a whole other topic for another day. That's playing such a hard play in D1 sports, really, or even NCAA sports, with the money that these athletes are able to make, and different schools with this different name can make an athlete more money than, say, another school. Well, again, I don't even want to get too much into it, because that's, again, a topic for
a whole other podcast,
and I can take an hour or two to talk about it. But so, all right, let's jump back to the process. So I'm now a player. I've reached out to the school of my dreams. I've talked to the coaching staff. I went to the showcase. I went to the camp. And now the school's interested. What are the next steps? Do I get my official visit? Do I go see a couple games? Do I meet with the coaching staff?
Again, per division, rules are different.
Right.
So to speak more generally, because this will D1, D2, and D3, and they're all a little different, right. But each division has a process, right? So you can do an official visit. That's a certain time frame. You do unofficial visits, different time frame. I can go see you at a high school game once. I can go. So to say what is the process, one of the best things you can do as a player is just Google what the schools are. Know what the schools are, D1, D2, D3, and know that there are variations with the rules. And there are plenty of websites out there that sort of say, this is the way. D1, you first try to go on a visit on the campus, having nothing to do with softball.
Just a tour.
Just go take the tour.
Understand the campus, yeah.
Understand the campus. I'm in a city campus. Right. Mm-hmm. It's pretty easy.
And for those of you who don't know, it is a big difference. The campus makes a lot. Yeah. Makes the college experience very different.
So because I'm a city campus and I'm recruiting and I'm standing next to Villanova. We're in Jersey City. Villanova is 45 minutes outside of Philly in a suburb.
Mm-hmm. In the middle of nowhere.
There's very different scenarios on each of those campuses. So a player that is interested in being in the city, we're in Jersey City. We are looking at Manhattan. If you like a city campus, you consider us. If you think this city is not for you, you really shouldn't go down that path. That's, again, being selective and finding the time to go to the schools you think you would like.
And how many players have you seen just get caught up in being a D1 athlete and not looking at any other aspects of the school?
Again, I love the reactions.
I just rolled my eyes again.
I wish you had a camera so you could capture all the reactions.
Yes, I think number one, and that's what I was saying when we talk about the showcase, to widen your net. Yeah. The idea of playing, D1 has the breadth, 296 schools. I mean, that goes from the MAC in the Northeast, that's where we play, and to, Big Ten, and
kind of
it's the breadth of competition, of level of play, of schedules we all play almost 50 games, but those games are played in completely different competition. Yeah. So if you get hung up on wanting to be a D1 player and you give up an opportunity at the D2, D3, or JUCO to make this sport part of your life. Women particularly do not have a longevity past college. Not to say that baseball, but you have more of a shot of continuing your playing career as a baseball athlete. Mm-hmm. We have a very finite amount of time. So I like to tell young women all the time, make this part of your college career. That's great. Enjoy it, because it will be over in a blink, right? It's been a long time since I've been in high school, and it is a blink. And if you don't make the most of it and be able to play, so we say a lot of times, right, you want to go play for University of Florida. Maybe you get on their team. Maybe you play 3 innings in 4 years. Was that the experience you wanted to have? Great, if it is. Or you go to a school that's not as competitive. You are, instead of being on the bench, you're a starter, and you end up playing 200 games in your career. Is that what you're looking for? Yeah. And that's something to consider. It's great to say I played D1. I say it was great. Yeah. Was it different than my JUCO and then my D2 experience? Yeah, it was different, but I liked all of them, and I got to experience, I went to spring training in Hawaii with my D2,
Right.
So who's to say, but I also, the friendships and the lessons I learned also about having to negotiate different schedules, different players, different coaches, it really, we like to say that yes, we're developing athletes, but I'm trying to develop young women that can go out in the world and take the lessons that they had to learn from these sports. And we have some realities in women's sports that men's don't. Right. Inevitably, we don't get funded the way men's do. The NCAA basketball, women's basketball, where that was it 2 years ago?
Oh yeah.
Where the gym
was a couple of treadmills
a set
or whatever.
Of weights for the women, and it was a full blown.
That was disappointing.
Yeah. So again, not to make that into a Title IX. I am the product of Title IX, and I'm still waiting for parts of Title IX to happen. But I do think that experience is what you should be looking for.
100%.
And I totally agree that don't fixate on a division. Right. It doesn't mean to sell yourself short.
Right.
It just means make this a part of your life that you can then carry on. If it's saying something, I still play competitive ball today.
Right.
Because I love it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience I had in college made me want to coach, made me want to continue to play. I've gotten to play as an adult, albeit slow pitch, but it's okay. I can't pitch slow pitch. I could never make the jump from fast pitch to slow pitch. But it is something that I still really, really enjoy. So I found a way to make this sport part of my life. And
continuously.
Did I see myself coaching in college? Not necessarily.
Yeah. I'll second that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you didn't see me playing in college.
That I didn't see myself coaching after college.
Yeah, well, I will say when I was coming up, it wasn't as much of a thing.
Right.
There's definitely some years different sitting at this table. There was not a degree called even sports management, so there really wasn't something you had to be very dedicated or have the opportunity, presented right away. Right. Mm-hmm. It was not the norm.
Yeah, and
20 years ago.
That's 100%, and I want to touch on real quick you see the coaching aspect of it, because especially in D1, again, there's different rules for every division, but especially D1, you're limited. And I know in baseball it's 4 coaches with three paid coaches with a voluntary assistant. In softball, is it the same thing, or is it it's 2 coaches in one?
2 and 3. You can actually mix it up. It's one head, of course,
right.
And then it's the paid is also depending on division and school.
Right, right. And I know it's been a big conversation in NCAA Division I to have that 4th assistant coach being paid and having a 5th coach as a volley and pushing everything back. But then we see some greedy schools like Power 5 schools that don't want it because it levels the playing field, and that's something they don't want. They don't want the playing field to be level. But again, a topic for a different day, and just another setback that I think D1 has too, because there's different things like you said, D1 school, they can only recruit from a certain time period. They can leave the campus. As a JUCO, I can go recruit whenever I want. That's the God honest truth.
Oh, I have friends that coach D3, and I often think, are you taking them out for dinner before the game? I can't even wave.
Right.
And I get it. It's frustrating, and sometimes that's also frustrating for the player, because if I'm standing and I have my St. Peter's, and they don't know me, they don't know if I'm D1, and they'll, hi coach, and hi, I'm so and so, and I have to hello, and then I have to walk away. It's just it's even how we can talk to the club coaches.
Yeah.
I don't know, we can't ask to have a player put in unless they're a certain year. We can't see them in a position unless they're a certain year, their eligibility, and it's tough. Right. One thing it does do, and I don't mind this, though, is when we do the showcases and we have a player that'll tell us, oh, I only got in 1 inning and only got 3 plays. I don't mind that, because, well, then, how'd you do on those 3 plays? Yeah. Because that's the pressure you're going to be under.
Right.
So, where club is, 3 games, they're all, in softball, it's typically 3 games in a day, and they may play only 6 innings. And we'll say, yeah, well, we only play doubleheaders, so you can go on a regular play day for us. If you may only play 3 innings, you have to make, or 1 play, you have to make the most of that play. So that's another thing that they kind of don't get. Right. They feel like, oh, you didn't get to, can you come out and see me again and again and again? And I almost want to say sometimes, I can kind of tell from 1 or 2 where your head is or what your competitiveness is.
You can tell how you run out to the field, what type of player you are. There's many pregame. There's so many ways, and that's actually a good segue to the next topic. But how funny is it, real quick, when you're at a showcase and you're just standing there with your clipboard, stopwatch, maybe a radar gun, and just people walk by, parents typically just stare at you and look at your shirt and try to see who you are. I get that so many times. Like I've been at Diamond Nation, I'm just sitting there with a stopwatch and gunning somebody. Parent walk by, and it's not like they're trying to be discreet about it. They look into your eyes, look at your chest, look at your hat, see what school you're from, to be able to tell, hey, so-and-so was here to watch yours,
Yeah, I think even funnier, you can tell what division you are, because all the D1 coaches, we only talk to each other.
Because that's all you can talk to. Because
it's the only people we can talk to. And so it's almost like after a game is over, I can even identify which schools are who, because the players come off the field and immediately talk, and you immediately can go, oh, it's either that division or they're that year. Right. But, and I think that, again, that's the awareness, unfortunately, on the player to really know. Right. And then if they figure out where you are, they can go, oh, so-and-so's here. You can go talk to them.
It's just, again, and I'm a big... Have awareness. Have an idea. Do your background homework. Do your research. Find all the information you can about the school. You can about Division I rules. I mean, I know there's a booklet out there you can get where there's just rules and rules and rules of what you can do. But as a player, I like players who are aware, who know their surroundings.
The emails that they send they have to have something that I would be interested in knowing. Right. A lot of times they have to. We've had them addressed to other schools.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Hi, Coach Jeremy.
Right.
And you're Coach Andrew, and there is no Coach Jeremy here. The other part is saying something about why you want to go to that school, the school, not just the softball program. Right. A lot of times also, if you're out of state or very far away, we find this at least. We have the services that send us players from California. And unless they follow up saying, I want to go to school on the East Coast, we have family there. It's not sometimes worth the time to even pursue it because it came from a service. It came from... So the emails that you're putting in are usually have to have something. And hey, know about the school. I see you beat so-and-so last year. That's great. I don't like them. Something that would at least make the coaches be interested in knowing that you're interested in that school particularly, not just a D1 program.
Make it unique. Make it niche. Make it cater to that school.
Absolutely.
And that's a good segue to the next topic, and that's what do coaches look for in a player? And to tail it back to make it more specific, as a player, how do you stand out at a showcase, at a camp, at an event, to have those eyes turned to you?
I think that the baseline has to be, your skills have to be there, and you kind of know what level you're eligible to play for in college based on your teammates. So have that base. We're not kidding. We do look when you're on the bench. What kind of a teammate you are.
Thank you for saying that, because we tell the kids that all the time,
It's real. If you strike out and you throw your bat and drop your helmet, I'm immediately
turned off.
You may not. Okay, look, if you're a freshman, I'll give it to you. If you're a junior or senior and you haven't developed a maturity to manage that, that's something we look at. The same is if you cheer for a player, not just the clap clap, but, oh, did you see that play? That was fantastic. We notice that also. The standout plays, of course, it's super fun when you see a highlight play. Right. You can't not appreciate, like, these crazy, like, outfield. They just ran a quarter mile, dove head first over the fence and got. Yeah. You can't not. You know, that's yes, that's
everybody
a thing.
Loves that.
Yeah, for us, if we see a slapper that can put a ball on a dime exactly where they want it, that's something that's super great too. But as far as the standing out, it's consistency. I want to see consistency. I want to see that you are able to lay off that one pitch that everybody else is missing. Having discipline, and hitting a ground ball, running it out.
Yep.
Like, you think that's a basic.
It's little things.
Right.
The details, because when you get to the next level, you're honing details, right? We can't reinvent the things you do.
Right, you can't expect to teach these.
Because it's there.
You wouldn't be with us if we didn't already see that you have X. So
it's
now
like
it's
details.
Level. And
with
pitching particularly, there are some habits that I can adjust.
Right.
And there are other habits I can't. They're just too ingrained. But the thing that really comes back to what makes you stand out is your competitiveness.
Right.
Did you go all out every play, every moment? And you can tell that.
Yeah.
Ball hit to left field and you're in right field. Are you actually involved in the play somehow?
Yeah, and you can't fake it.
No,
you really can't. I mean, you can see kids that want to. So I think that when you talk about standing out, consistency, and it's a baller. Yeah. Someone who just absolutely jumps up and down, and if they miss, their head is in it for the next one. They didn't take themselves out of the next play. And for, pitching and catching. Catcher lofts 120 feet over, the second baseman's head on a throwdown. Did they then miss the next two? Or did they come back and gun out the next one?
Right.
It's all about presence.
100%. And I like what you said there about the details, because for me, at least when I recruit, I look, like you said, I look at very specific plays. Can he move from his left to his right? A big thing too, the best way that you're going to be seen is in between innings when your first baseman's rolling your ground balls. As a coach, that's our best time to see you, because we know for sure you're going to get at least 2 or 3 ground balls, right? And that's another thing that people don't understand, especially like at the baseball level. And again, tell me how it is at softball, but I'm looking for kids who are deep in the hole when they're warming up in between innings, right? I want to see your arm strength. Show me how you can throw the ball. Show me how you move left to right.
Give me your best effort every time.
Have your first baseman move. And then I watch when I bat, I know what type of player you are. I check those boxes off. Then I move on to, okay, how does he interact with his teammates? What does he do on the bench? Is he up every pitch? Is he talking? Is he getting behind his players? Is he calling a timeout when his pitcher's not doing what he has to do to go talk to him and get, sort of get on him to do this stuff? So it's the little things like you said, and I think it's a big note for players to understand when getting recruited and know that you're in that standpoint to get recruited, what to do. A lot of times, like you said, players don't know to even ask questions or to even raise their hands or whatnot. But having an idea, you don't need a ball hit to you every time. Do the little things. Hustle over. Back up. It's the little things that matter.
One of the things I tend to at least also really look at is game awareness.
Yeah.
I think players live in a world a little bit too much of, I'm doing what I'm doing because I'm told to do it.
Right.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started.
Grew up with no instruction. Barely, and we grew up, of course, wiffle ball, and you made up plays, and the game awareness. One of my number one things is sort of players that don't understand, like, backside runner. Right. Something that is just, or being able to, we were talking about it with our third baseman. I'm currently third baseman shortstop. But faking out, fake throw to first and turn around, tag them at third. The kind of, I call it like the playground mentality, that you're just making things happen, but having a game awareness of not just, if I fumble it, I have to go to first. No, you have to know and anticipate.
Right.
The anticipation part is when you really separate the players from, you can. I sort of, the way I talk about pitchers sometimes is there are people that can pitch, and then there are pitchers.
Right.
So I say there are kids that can play ball, and then there are ball players.
Right.
They have this awareness.
Dudes on the ball.
I mean, when we say, oh, that's, like, okay, you can hit 350, what a stud.
Right.
But when you see a girl fumble a ball, do a 360, fake a throw to third to tag the girl at second, that's game aware. That's knowing what she might do if you do this. So creating something to happen. Right. It may seem not routine, but the fact that they're able to do it and know what that next play should be.
And you know where that comes from, and which I think is a lost art, from watching games. Sitting down, studying film, watching softball games on ESPN. When I know it doesn't come around often, but definitely does. When the College World Series is on, it's on every day, and I'm tuned in.
Right. We outnumbered you on viewers on the World Series.
You know why? Because my girl from JMU was going crazy.
Oh my, Well, when you get a player like that, and it really does sort of inject, very similar to tennis. I played competitive tennis as well, and you got the Williams sisters. When you have someone who is such a standout, and that again. The play that stands out for us for the JMU is when Odyssey dove head first at the plate to get that pop up, and we're like,
and the next inning hit a home run,
right? And we sit here and of course I want to say that's a pit. That's the pitcher. You think that's just what you do? No, that's someone who was willing to say, I am gonna kill myself trying, and able to deliver. So it was super fun. And there are certain players that are very exciting to watch, and I think that's only helpful. And then if you find a player at your showcase that is doing that also, like I love the ones. I don't mind a kid going head first when they don't need to. Sometimes I don't mind it because it just shows me
passion.
They like it. So are they going to do that all the time? No,
but they're having fun.
Yes.
At the end of the day,
it's a game.
That's how you have fun.
And we only get to do it for a certain amount of time at that level. So love it.
Take it in and just go run with it. And so for you, there's no such thing as too much over showcasing yourself, doing.
Well, the unnecessary jumping up for like a line drive and then catching it at your chest, I don't know. Maybe that's a timing issue. But no, I do think I don't think if it's natural, you're not showboating.
Right.
Of course, the ones who are faking it are the ones that if they miss, they throw their glove. You can tell that a mile away, too. The ones that do it naturally, I don't have a problem. That's not showboating.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can tell.
No,
you can tell when you're doing it.
You
can tell when you're showboating and just to be better than the person behind you, or you can tell when you just do it naturally. And
let's put it this way: one kid, if they have, when we say look at their feet, they move their feet so well, they're doing that naturally.
Yep.
So it's actually sometimes they don't have that highlight play because they get to the ball so quickly every time.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who dives up the middle to get one. Did they need to dive, or are they just too slow to get to it and had to dive? So there's that too. But again, hey, they dove.
They dove. At the end of the day, they went the extra mile. At the end of the day,
they tried.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest thing you can ask for: is try, have a sense of urgency, be out there hustling.
Compete. Just compete. I want people on the field that are just competing, not going through the motions and not feeling like they don't have to work to do it. Because there's a lot of work.
And for those of you at home listening right now, if you can't tell the excitement in all of our voices when we're talking about this, you should pay attention.
Especially when compete came up.
Yes.
Yeah, when compete comes up, it's
I'm a type A personality with anything. I will challenge you to anything and just assume that I will win.
I can't lose at bowling.
I can't turn it off. Right. So that's either a good or a bad thing.
Everything's a competition in my head. Everything.
It's terrible.
We'd be writing a paper. If I write it first, I won. I don't care if I get a bad grade.
Okay, that could be a stretch for me, but
but no. So what as another thing I wanted to tap into to almost close the segment. As someone, and again, we all come from New Jersey, so don't take this as a biased statement, but what's the perfect off-season program? What do you look for in a player? What do you look for when they come into you? How are they ready? How do you know they're prepared and ready to go?
So we have a plan for them.
Right.
So we have one of the things we have to do is a fitness test. That's just so we have a baseline.
Of course.
A lot of times, that's your baseline. You have to be able to finish your fitness test, and you have to pass it to be able to play. But the thing that when they come back, and we're actually just coming back tomorrow, I get to go see the team, and we'll have our first practice. And
team practice or 4-1? Oh, full team practice.
Well, with COVID, kind of have it spread, but and one of the things I want to see is that I left you in the second week of December. I now get you back, and I need to see that you gained ground.
Right.
So that meant that you did put the work in over the break. You still had to have fun and enjoy your holiday. But the perfect program is a mix of you're working on your skills, your overall health. Mostly what goes first is your overall athletic ability is the best way I can say it. You leave, you have been on our 20-hour week, you have been in strength training, you can run, let's call it 2.8 to first. If you come back 5 weeks later and you're now running 3.2, we know exactly what you did or didn't do over the break.
Right.
Couple too many Christmas cookies.
Yeah, and a lot of other stuff, I guess.
Exactly.
But, it's that kind of thing. And then as far as skill-based, if you followed the program that we laid out, there's no catch-up.
Right.
So the perfect program is really just make sure you maintain and then try to gain ground. If you are trying to work on bunting, then come back stronger than you left. I'm working with pitchers. So you went away and you had work on this, come back, let's see if you move the needle.
Yeah.
So as far as a perfect program, if you're looking for a prescription of this many burpees and this many, I think that's relative to the player. What did they need to work on?
Right.
Did you need to get quicker?
Yep.
Then
Everyone's
okay, I hope you spent 6 weeks becoming quicker. Did you need to be stronger? Did you need... So I don't know that there's a perfect one, and when we give our prescription for the winter, it covers basically a continuity of what they did in the spring, strength training, and skills.
And that's something we talked about in the very first episode that we did together.
Yep.
And I think the word development can get mixed up in a lot of ways, okay? Development is not everybody doing the same thing at the same time.
No.
Development is an individual player working on his or her strengths and the whole team doing that, coming together as a whole. That's development.
Absolutely.
I think every player is different. Body types are different. Strengths are different. And what I tell my guys when we don't see them for a couple of weeks is go home and work on the things that you don't excel in. Don't work on your strengths as much. Work on your weaknesses more.
Maintain
and start
the
tuning
strengths and
your,
build the weaknesses.
100%. And
Also identify the weakness.
Right.
Have the
that's
humility
what I was gonna
enough
say.
to
It
know.
starts-
awareness. Back to the word awareness. Knowing
And you
what
have to
your
know
strengths
who
and
you're
weaknesses
also trying to beat out, right? You always have someone on the team. You're either trying to keep your position or beat someone out.
And that's a good point, because even those girls and guys that are, at starting and at the top of their game, so to speak, they should never be stagnant. Don't be stagnant.
And someone's at their heels.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
and that's especially a lot of time with hitting, where we have players that don't hit because they're not consistent.
Right.
Well, then you spend your winter to become a better hitter.
Right.
But the idea of, and when you coach, the things we're then coaching as a group are plays and the general pieces. But skill development over the winter program is all it's a standard program, but your individualization is up to you.
Yeah.
Where you're going to put the extra work in is what you know you need.
Right. And again, that just comes back to the word having that competitive drive and the self-awareness, knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your weaknesses are.
Agreed.
Being able to look yourself in the mirror. You know what? I'm not the best bunter, or you know what? I'm not the best stealer. You know what? I need to work on some pop-ups some more, or staying in front of a baseball, taking a baseball, whatever the case is. And that's not to say don't be me, don't be an I guy. Still do what's the best interest to help the team out.
But in fact, you are helping the team.
100%.
When you have that self-awareness,
to do,
if you can level up, it makes everybody else level up.
Right.
So if you cheat yourself, inevitably you're cheating the team.
Right.
So while
How
there
many
is
times,
no
Jeremy,
I,
have you heard me say that to the guys out on the field?
there may not be an I in team, but there kind of is.
Right.
You have to.
But again, it comes.
You also
back
want to
and
have
do
that
it together.
accountability, though, and you are talking about a maturity level that you also gain, as we can see from freshman to senior year.
Yep.
I think from coaching, we roll our eyes. Oh, freshmen, they're not there yet. But they have to have that accountability to their teammate. We're all here. Look, we spend a lot of time together working and failing a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So what are we trying to do? Get everybody on the same page to work for that same common goal. And that's where that compete, which we've said 70 times here, if you're not willing to put yourself second, team first, and the main part of that is making sure that you're at your best to contribute to the team. Mm-hmm. Don't be stubborn. Don't think you're going to be the one that doesn't have to do anything and is going to be the hero. It just statistically doesn't really work that way a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
And
dedication.
that's just the reality of it. And that's another piece to look for. What if you're trying to get recruited? Show that it's about the team and it's not about you, and it's do what's in the best interest of the team.
Absolutely.
100%. I kind of want to end with this because I'm kind of interested. So, give us your best softball experience at St. Peter's.
Oh, wow. Okay, you're totally on the spot.
I like that stuff.
The first time we swept, so that's hard. We developed our program. We have been trying to double our wins. It comes, it goes. We have come close. But one of probably the highlights is we actually played, this was 4 years ago, and we played in freezing rain in Greensboro, North Carolina. Oh. And we played UNC Greensboro. Mm-hmm. They were rated top 50 at the time. We had to play the game in 2 days because it rained, sleet, snow. Oh. We suspended the game in inning 5, had to come back the next day to play 2 more innings. The weather was not much better, and we won. Oh, nice. And that was unbelievable because it was that element of underdog, right? We all look at St. Peter's and the MAC on the whole. We're not Alabama. Right. So we are always sort of an underdog. St. Peter's, particularly at that time, we're from the Northeast MAC playing a rated top 50 team. Mm-hmm. The fact that we would be that close or that competitive to win, mm-hmm. and having it be that experience where it was terrible playing conditions, yeah. Right. And then came back and had to play 2 more innings, which that means that there's no room for warming up, getting ready. Nope. You play 2 more innings, and we won that. It was fantastic. Yep. And so that was probably one of my more, and it was mostly because it showed that grit, that determination, the focus.
Right. To be able to come back that second day and turn it back on.
Yeah.
What was the score when you came back the second day? Were you guys up or were you down?
We were down.
That even makes it even better.
And we were down, forgive me.
That's all right.
Yeah. But we were down, I believe.
Yeah. That makes it, and again, that comes
from...
Gosh,
I hope that's right.
That comes from
I'm not sure.
What I said in the beginning about...
I assume, look, I'm a pitcher. I assume we're down all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't actually want to know the score. I just assume we're down 2, and it's my job to make sure it doesn't change.
Right.
So there
where it's at. Hold the lead. Well, Sue, I had a bunch of fun, a lot of good information for softball players out there.
And for the baseball players.
Of course, 100%.
Baseball players, I hope you were paying attention.
100%.
It's pervasive and once.
And it works hand in hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know the games are kind of fairly different, but at the same time they're very similar. And what we look for as coaches and what we, the game itself is very similar. Sue, again, appreciate you jumping on before you have some lessons here. I know. That's it, folks. That's all we have for today. Of course, as always, if you have any questions or if you want any questions for Coach Sue, just email the show at diamondtalkshow@gmail.com. Again, diamondtalkshow@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to answer any questions you may have. See you next week, folks. Stay tuned. We have Jeff Falzeron coming back on the show.